Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and we are here today to talk Survivor 50, Episode 2, where season is in full swing. It's our first regular 90-minute episode. 3 hour premiere was a lot, so this time we can get into the nitty gritty a little bit more and excited for that. And we have a very special guest with us here today to cover it all the messiness that we experienced in this episode. We could only have one person to cover all this mess. And from Recap Kickback podcast, as well as all over the RHAP network, it's Chappell. Chappell, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank y'all for having me. I imagine y'all had the screeners or the spoilers for this one, so you brought me in when it got the messiest it's ever been in Survivor 50. Perfect timing for me to come and make my debut here on Let's Chat Realities. I'm very happy to be here.
So excited to get into everything with you. But Chappelle, we always like to start off when we have new guests on the pod by getting your reality TV origin story. So, is there like a show or an episode of a show that you remember watching that just really got you sucked into this world?
Okay. So I've been watching Survivor since the beginning, but prior to Survivor, I used to watch The Real World. I think as a wee lad, I was watching a show I had no business watching. I remember when I was young, I went and I bought the season. I bought the shit you haven't seen behind the scenes DVDs from the pawn shop because I was that kid, and I bought The Real World Paris. I believe London and Vegas, all three of those seasons. And so that is really where I cut my teeth. And that explains a lot about who I grew up to be as well, because those should not be the shows that you look back to as the things that kind of help you grow up into the human that you are today. And I've seen a lot of shit, I've seen a lot of stuff. And so, yeah, it started there. And then Survivor, all the competition reality shows. But I'm a bit of a reality TV historian. I was in the trenches way back when.
Yeah, Real World of Vegas, I feel like really encapsulates what the type of shows, the type of podcast that we see from you today, Chappelle. That does explain a lot.
Oh yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I love going to Vegas, but for that reason, because it just feels like it feels so nostalgic for me as somebody who watched that show, who got to know that cast, who was watching the behind the scenes stuff at such a young age, and then to see that those characters are still relevant today. I mean, we just saw Trishelle on the Traitors 2 seasons ago now, and looking at that, I'm just like, oh yeah, this origin story led to something bigger. It led me to the podcast that I am. But I'm talking about people that I've been watching since I was a child, so I feel like I'm uniquely equipped sometimes to talk about reality TV.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, look, speaking of watching people that were relevant way back when, I mean, this season, Survivor 50, we got some people who have started their reality TV careers way back in the early 2000s. Let's get into this season then. So, Chappelle, we're 2 episodes in. What have your thoughts been so far on Survivor 50?
I think I, I think I'm having fun. I'm having fun. I think I'm enjoying the season. It feels like a good season, but I do think that the boot order is serving me right now. I think that if the order was different, I might be having a different conversation with you right now. And it's crazy that Survivor works like that. I think that if you look at seasons like Winners at War, it's hard to really enjoy that season knowing how many of the big names that people were dying to see come back go out so early or in catastrophic ways, to where it's like, yeah, you can enjoy that season for reasons, but it's not as easy as it is to enjoy a season where some of the people that you really don't care about as much go, or people that you maybe weren't clamoring for as much, or just even if your faves are just the ones escaping elimination. And as I mean, anybody who's ever listened to me podcast knows that like these 2 weeks with Sari being kind of on the chopping block and her name coming up, that's not great. That's not great for me. And so we've survived it. We've got to see some good moments for Sari. So I don't think I could be much happier than I am right now.
Yeah. I've been watching how stressed you've been as you've been live streaming these episodes, and I've been watching both of them, and it's been very stressful with Surrey and Tribal Council 2 episodes in a row.
I'm a bit jaded. and traumatized from the Traitors. We came in
Yeah.
thinking we were going to get time with Rob and Ian and all of these people that was like, oh, the cast looked amazing, and then we lost a couple of them in one shot. Even Portia. It just felt like, damn, I thought we were going to have a good time watching this, and if I could have rearranged that boot order, I probably would have just flipped it over, just if I could have just done that one in reverse, I would have loved it. And so this starting off where we lose a couple big names, they're big names, but they're not the biggest names for me personally. So I'm having a good time.
Yeah. Molly, what did you think of episode 2?
I enjoyed it. It felt like overall, like we got a lot out of it, even though it was still the 90-minute episode now, going back to the not 3 hour long premiere, obviously. So it kind of felt short at first, but then I was like, okay, we actually did get a decent bit in here to talk about it. Obviously, like the messiness that happened. So I feel like it was a good episode. It kind of went by quickly, obviously, because it was only 90 minutes, but I was wanting more from it as well.
I know, isn't it crazy? We used to get only 60-minute
Yeah.
episodes, and now we're at 90 minutes. And on a season like this, sometimes those can drag, but on a season like this, we're like, give us more. And I think that's a very good sign that we're off to a good start so far.
Yeah.
But let's get into this episode then. So we pick up on Vatu Beach after Kyle's evacuation, and everyone's very sad about it, of course, but pretty quickly they start to strategize about who from Kyle's alliance of Rizzo, or sorry, not Rizzo yet, of Stephanie, Genevieve, and Colby. They need to decide who to replace Kyle with. So Q decides to bring Rizzo into this alliance and starts to talk to him and get his feel of where he is with everything. So Chappell, what did you think of this choice to bring in Rizzo? Because there are a couple other people now that leaves on the bottom here, Angelina and Aubrey. What did you think of their decision to bring in Rizzo over the two of them?
Well, we know Q doesn't trust Aubrey. As much as they can try to play nice on the beach, that lore is deep in Survivor history now. Pour one out for Mariah. And so now we know that that's probably not the person he wanted to work with the most. I also think Q identified Angelina as somebody that he didn't really trust too much in the preseason. So it makes total sense for me that they need another number. Colby doesn't have a vote. Q doesn't have a vote. Kyle just got evicted or whatever. What is medically evacuated? Yeah,
Big brother.
He got voted out. And so they need somebody else. They need one more number at least. And Rizgod, they don't know much about him, but they know he's not Angelina and they know he's not Aubrey. So yeah, this feels about right. I wasn't shocked to see this.
Yeah. Molly, do you think, because usually when somebody is the last to join a group, that would indicate that they might be the first one, the most expendable out of that group. Do you think that that is going to be Rizzo's fate here if this alliance does end up sticking together at all? Or do you think that it's still early enough that he'll be able to kind of work his way in on equal footing?
Yeah, I feel like just because I don't know a ton about him, it makes sense he was the last one in this group. So I think that he could build that trust amongst the rest of them and really not be seen as that kind of weak link of the group of the last one being added. So I have hope that Rizzo could talk his way into maybe building some stronger connections there and not being seen as that just last one in.
Mm-hmm. Well, then we move over to the Sela tribe, and Christian is having a tough time here. He is he's in a crappy situation, if you will. Now, Molly, what were your thoughts on this segment?
Well, I thought it was funny just to see, like, I feel like we don't get a ton of that always in Survivor of seeing the unexpected situations that come out of the living out there. And so I thought it was nice that they showed it to us in a funny way as well. And just obviously it can happen when you're out on the island and things have to be, come out sometimes.
Yeah. Chappelle, do you think that this is something that happens more often than we see?
I feel like they would show it though, don't you think? Like why have they been protecting us from it for so long? Maybe it's because it's Christian. Maybe Christian is the one Survivor character. That might be my running theory, is that he's the one Survivor character who can survive this. I think that he's so endearing. There was nothing about this episode in general, but even just this moment that made me feel like, oh my God, we should be ridiculing Christian the rest of the way. It's like you kind of felt for him in the moment. But it wasn't. I didn't pity him. It kind of felt like, oh, Christian, of course this happened to you. But I think he bounces back from this. I think people are still making jokes about people in the past who this, alluding to stuff like that. But Christian, I feel like he'll shake this off. So maybe they just only showed it to us because they knew we could handle it from Christian.
I love that in Chat BCC before the episode, he was like, this is the messiest episode so far. And everyone's like, oh my God, we're so excited to see what happens. And then like 15 minutes in, we're like, oh.
And he knew it was in the episode. He knew it was in the episode. Like, I don't know if there was a secret scene or something like that, or if he got the screener, but it happened, but they could have cut it out. There's a non-zero chance that it would just not be in the episode, and he knew it was. So I think maybe they might have had a conversation with him about it as well.
I always assume, do they not send screeners to the cast?
No.
Oh.
No.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, they don't watch the episode early unless they have to do their exit press early. And even then, I've interviewed people who hadn't seen the episode that they got booted from. So they would be talking about things that weren't in the episode, or I'd be asking them questions that they didn't even know was in the episode, or that kind of happened out of order. So I don't think he had watched the episode prior to that.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Wow. I guess I just assumed he had because he wrote that. I was like, oh, he knew that he must have just seen it and knew that was in there.
He knew shit went down on day 5.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Well, then before the reward challenge, everyone gathers, of course, and there is a bit of an emotional moment. Camilla finds out that Kyle was evacuated, and she talks about how crappy it is, for lack of a better word, for Kyle to go out that way. And then we get to Coach kind of circling it around, making it about his feud with Ozzy. And he retells the fight in front of everybody that he had during the Fight for Supplies challenge, and in an effort to set the record straight. But Chappell, what did you think of Coach's decision to just kind of air this out in front of everyone here?
Well, I was kind of looking at Jeff, questioning if Jeff did this on purpose. Coach has obviously been talking to whatever producers are out there about his feelings. I'm sure he's done some confessionals to this point, so they know it's on his heart, but it's the way they get to it. They start with, oh, Kyle got medevaced. Ozzy, you know how it feels to hurt yourself. Remember that challenge you did with Coach? Coach, how did that challenge feel to you? And it's just like they slowly built to the conversation with Coach. And by the time we get to Coach, we're not even talking about medically evacuating anymore. We're not talking about Kyle anymore. This is a completely different conversation. And so I don't know if it was just that Coach was just itching to talk about it, or if Jeff and the producer were just like slowly pulling at that thread to make sure that he aired it out. Because to me, this isn't something you would want to say publicly. You would want to work these conversations in more naturally. And Coach has done this a million times. Like he's played over 100 days. You would think he wouldn't fall for something like this, but it was on his heart. He had to say it.
Yeah. Molly, do you feel like this will come back to bite him?
Yeah, I feel like, we keep on seeing this Ozzy Coach feud, so there has to be something, I feel like, coming up, and I don't know if they would highlight it as much. Obviously it's a big deal, and that Ozzy still feels hurt by it too. But I feel like because they're really emphasizing it, it's going to have some other thing that's going to go down.
Yeah, 100%. Do we know? I know that they announced or not officially, but like Mike Bloom tweeted the swap tribes. Are they on the same swap tribe or not? I have not.
I didn't see it. I didn't see the tweet.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I would like to see the tweet.
I remember certain people, but I can't remember if they're on the same tribe or not. But either way, I do think that they will end up together again if it's not next week, and there will be some sort of battle there, because there's no way that one of them leaves when they're on separate tribes and this never comes up again. It just feels like it's been built up too much that there has to be a resolution here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then we do get to the reward challenge. Sela wins, and they win 2 hammocks and a tarp. Callow comes in second, winning a smaller tarp. And then we get some scenes from all 3 tribes here. So let's just kind of go tribe by tribe. So we'll start with the blue tribe, Callow. I feel like we get the least from this tribe so far in the 2 episodes. I feel like I have the worst understanding of what the dynamics are here, since they have not been to tribal yet. But we do get a couple of interesting things here. So, first of all, Coach and Jonathan go out in the water to fish, and Coach gets a bad cramp. So, safety swimmers have to go out and save him and bring him to camp. Molly, this just feels like the most Coach thing to happen, that he would be like, I'm gonna go, I'm just as good as Jonathan, and then, oop, no, maybe I'm not.
I know. I mean, it's good Jonathan was out there with him to go over to kind of save him in a way, and then the safety swimmers too. But I thought that it was interesting just to see that we kind of broke the fourth wall a little bit too, like the producers, like you see them like and talking to them and then getting on the boat too. But I think, I mean, obviously Coach is knowing that he's like, okay, I can't really go out and do as much as I think I can. So I thought, I mean, it was a good moment overall, I thought, from the tribe.
Yeah. I mean, Chappelle, it feels like the last couple years we've gotten so much more of this, like, kind of breaking of the fourth wall. Like, of course, everything last season with Jake, and then we got this, and then, like, it seemed like more and more we're getting, like, almost a better sense of, like, what it kind of is like out there and peeling back the curtain a bit.
Absolutely. I don't think we've ever seen the safety swimmers out there. We've seen people almost drown, where I could think of Tasha in Cambodia. I think she was having
Oh, yeah.
struggling in the water, and they had to kind of stop the challenge to go get it. But I don't think we've ever seen anybody just, hey, I was swimming and I couldn't make it back, so the safety swimmers came and got me. You're right. I think I'd have to imagine they're showing us more of this stuff to make it more like a game. Because I think at first Survivor was the adventure. It was surviving. People were questioning, is this even real? Are people doing this for real? Is this on a sound stage? And they're like, no, it's very clearly in Fiji. And it's a game that we play, and we take safety very seriously. We saw that with the Kyle conversations. We saw that with the Sea Crate. And now we're seeing that with Coach. To your point, though, this is a very Coach thing. It's like if it had to happen to somebody, it's a part of the Coach lore that now Coach is the guy who caught the cramp while trying to be the hero, or being a hero role alongside this new young heroic figure like Jonathan.
Yeah. He didn't catch a crab, but he caught a cramp.
Mm-hmm.
So close enough. But then we also get with this tribe that Chrissy seems to kind of be rubbing some people the wrong way. That she is being too motherly towards them, and they're getting annoyed by it. Chappelle, we saw a lot of, I feel like, I almost don't even remember if it was during HHH or like an exit press afterwards, that we really got the sense that, like, Chrissy was not super, I want to say well liked. Maybe that's the wrong word, but
No, that's right.
that she was rubbing some people the wrong way on that season as well. Yeah. And now maybe we're getting a little bit of a better sense as to why.
I feel like this is different. Yeah. I think that now she's kind of stepped into the motherly role, but I think the first time around they didn't like her because she wasn't the motherly role. I think they wanted her to be more doting and more careful with everybody's feelings, and she was so much of a gamer that it didn't matter. She was voting out these people and they thought they had real connections with her, and then they were kind of a little bitter about the way she was handling them. This feels different. This feels like maybe she hasn't realized that she stepped into that role, and these people don't care. This isn't 39 Day Survivor where they care about who's massaging their leg, or and helping them build a fire and catching fish and all that kind of stuff. They came to play the game. Dee and them don't care about Chrissy and her, looking out for everybody. They'll be done with this in a week and a half. So I don't know. I feel like it's not a good look for Chrissy, but I know she can come from it. She wasn't always this person. And many of these survivors have kind of evolved into older versions of their old self that aren't quite up to the same superpowers that they used to have. Coach catching the cramp. Coach has always been a cartoon character, but I don't think you've ever seen him damn near drown. Chrissy used to be, Chrissy the challenge beast and the actuary, the super actuary. And now she's like, oh, the granny. Kobe has one ear and a good eye and one eye. I think a lot of them are aging, and we're just kind of seeing some of the seams now in the big in the design. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Molly, do you think that if somebody like Chrissy that you were on a tribe with, would you appreciate having that kind of motherly figure there? Would you gravitate towards that, or would you be annoyed by it? And would it at all, either way, affect whether you would vote somebody out for something like that or not?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's interesting to see how this tribe was reacting to Chrissy with that. I feel like I wouldn't see it as negative as they're projecting. I mean, it also could be the edit and everything that we're only getting those clips of the people being annoyed, and there's obviously other people's opinions too. But I think in that way, like obviously, like you're also not eating and sleeping and all of that. They're all just getting more irritated in general over things that I think. I mean, I've never been out on the island of Fiji and not really eating food, so I don't know exactly how I'd feel, but I feel like I probably would get annoyed in that way too, of just not really wanting to be touched and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I don't want them to be annoyed with Chrissy as much as they are, though, because I'm like, oh no, like she's not trying to do that to like annoy you, but it's coming off that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see it. You know, that it's fine if you're only having to be around somebody for, you know, a couple hours a day or whatever, and they're like that. But when you're with someone for 24/7, and if that is something that you're seeing all the time, and you feel like, especially when you're already irritable, I could see that would get to be a lot. But I know that she doesn't, of course, mean for it to come off that way. So
Yeah.
she probably doesn't even realize that it is unless somebody's telling her. So,
and it probably speaks more to her placement in the tribe too, like because we see Charlie kind of separating himself from her, and Charlie probably doesn't have that big of an issue with it. But when you see everybody else moving away from her and not liking it, you'd be crazy to say, "Oh no, Chrissy, I'm going to stick beside you." You either have to get her to stop or you have to leave her behind. And so I think that it might not be so bad, but it's bad to the people who matter, you know, the people who are in charge, and that's the biggest issue.
well, also, I mean, Charlie in particular, as he said in this episode, that he loves to align with the mother figure on his tribe, but that because of how that went last time, he's probably keeping a little bit of a distance just because of that, and in addition to, of course, just the way that everybody else may be perceiving her. So, kind of a twofold for them not to maybe align very closely together during the season.
Right, exactly.
But on Vatu tribe as well, we're also getting some friction within the camp, within the cast, because of people who are not necessarily contributing as much around camp. That Q and Colby are getting frustrated with Rizzo for being lazy. Molly, do you think that would you be annoyed with somebody who's not contributing around camp as much, or I don't know, on Survivor 50, everybody kind of can hold their own, I feel like. Is that really such a big deal?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe because they also just don't really know Rizzo overall. They could be just taking it out on him and thinking that he's lazy in that way. But I don't know. Not everyone has to be a provider at camp. So I don't know why they're getting mad or frustrated about it. But I don't see why it has to be such a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, Chappell, from what I understand, like, it feels like they don't even sleep in the camp. I feel like most of survivors say that, like, they sleep on the beach. So I don't even understand why it's such a huge deal.
I think the issue is that Rizzo and his season didn't do this stuff. He was in the power position. Him and Savannah were running their tribe, so they could just lay around and not do anything all day. Whereas Q seems to be the most upset about this. Q and Colby to an extent. We know Colby's seasons of Survivor were all about building your shelter and making sure you have fish and food and all that kind of stuff. And I think maybe Q lives like that too. And so he's a little bit more responsible when it comes to making sure there is a camp life. Whereas Rizzo just played. He just played. He's like, I was just sleeping on this beach last week. I don't have to build a shelter. I just proved that I could get to the end without doing it. So I think maybe it's just he has to go with the flow a little bit more. If everybody else is working, you got to work. But it's kind of shining a light on him. And who else? Angelina, I think they said, is just standing there like a statue. They just don't want to. They don't want to do anything, you know. And I can't blame them. I don't think I would want to work all the time if I wasn't eating. But
yeah,
you gotta do what you gotta do to not get voted out.
Yeah, I feel like there's a fine balance. Like, if you're not somebody who feels like you know enough or strong enough or whatever to take the lead in that, like, I think that's totally fine. Like, you don't need to be the person contributing the most, but you also don't want to be the person contributing the least. Like, I feel like you just kind of have to, like, see, okay, who is the person doing the least? Let me just do a little bit more than them.
Yeah.
So that's not, like, a reason why I stand out. And, you know, I feel like on Rizzo, like I'm thinking about his tribe from 49. Who was the person in charge of that? Like, I don't even think that I can't think of anyone
They
who
weren't
like
doing that.
would have been like the Colby or the Q that would have just been like, let me handle all of this. So I don't even know who would have done that, but I guess it wasn't him.
Well, they were
But
winning as well, right? So like that tribe in particular, they probably weren't doing stuff because they didn't. I mean, those people that we know were in charge. They didn't have to do stuff. But if you're at the bottom, I imagine Jawan's probably collecting a lot of firewood, or was it
oh, he
Shannon
was
as
doing it in
well?
Savannah's bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But and they were in, and I mean that's the proof, right? We know he was at least looking for sticks. Whereas Rizzo was like, I'm not going to get voted out for not working. You're the one who has to do that. And I think maybe it was the people at the bottom that were probably doing the majority of the work.
Yeah, sure. Well, Aubrey also feels on the outs on this tribe. She is feeling like she's not connecting, not involved in the conversations. And Genevieve is convinced that Aubrey has a boomerang idol, that she was given a boomerang idol by someone on one of the other tribes, since she's been apparently very careful with keeping her bag close to her. And this was a very fun scene, I thought, that Genevieve and her whole alliance search Aubrey's bag, and they unfortunately find nothing. But it was like, Chappell, it was like this whole mission that everybody had a role, everybody was helping out. It was very fun.
Yeah, and they did it like, well, I guess in the episode like 10 minutes early. It was so funny to see them go through all of that, be wrong about it, and then find out, like, had they just done it a day later, they probably would have found something. And I don't know, do people still keep their idol just in their bag? I feel like we've been doing this for 50 seasons. You can't possibly be keeping important things still in your bag, right? Like, I thought we're past that.
Well, I'm trying to think, because on 48 there was a similar scene where people were searching whose bag was it that they were searching? It was on Camilla and Kyle's tribe. Was it like Camilla's bag that they were searching? I can't remember, but it was like, I think that it was like somewhere in the bag.
Yeah, they
what
just
were
missed
looking
it.
for, but they just missed it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they just saw that, like 48 had just aired. So I wonder if that was part of like in their mind of like, well, if we search hard enough, then maybe somebody will do the same thing, and they're having it in their bag, but they missed it, but we're going to do a thorough search and we're not going to miss it.
I'm judging you if you keep your advantages in your bag. I have to say it. It's so easy to find it. I mean, we see where Ozzy's keeping his. I just don't think that it's wise after all of this time to be walking around and leave. And even if you do have it in your bag, it should always be on you. The fact that Aubrey put her bag down and walk away, I think for Survivor 50, none of these players should be that careless. Like, Aubrey that wouldn't be Aubrey. She's not a 4-time player because she does careless things like that. I just would have expected way more from her. I'd have been shocked had they found something in her bag.
Yeah. Now, Molly, I have a little bit of a theory, though. I wonder if this was out of order and Aubrey had already found her boomerang idol, but so they were right about the fact that she was keeping her bag close on her, but she wasn't keeping it in her bag, so it wasn't there.
Yeah, I thought that too after we saw Aubrey actually get the boomerang idol. I was like, wait, did they look when she had it, or was it before? Like, I didn't know exactly timing of that. Obviously, we won't fully know that unless someone comes out to say that. But I don't know. I feel like that was a little bit of a plan of like, okay, like they think something is here and then it's not, but now it is.
Yeah. It was very fun. Whatever, even if it wasn't, a truthful edit, I appreciate the fact that they did it that way, because I thought that was very fun. But as we said, Christian finds the Billie Eilish boomerang idol, which was also a very fun moment because he was like talking to the camera while he was like not even looking for an idol seemingly, and then he just finds it out of nowhere and is like, oh my god. And that was a very cool way to find an idol. But then, of course, he finds out that he cannot keep it for himself thanks to Billie Eilish, and he has to give it to somebody on another tribe, and he chooses Aubrey. Molly, what did you think of his decision here and his reasoning behind it?
Well, I was glad first off because I was like, wow, like they were so close to almost finding that she had a boomerang idol, and then I mean we don't know exactly how that order went, but it kind of just made sense in the story of this episode that it had to be Aubrey here, but also I like Aubrey and she's been on the bottom now, so it's like okay, now she has some power in the game, and I mean hopefully she'll use it correctly if she has to, but I think it made sense from Christian's standpoint to give it to Aubrey as well.
Yeah, Chappelle, there's been like a lot of discourse about what reasoning, like, would you want to give somebody a boomerang idol with the intention of it coming back to you or with the intention of making an ally with someone on the other tribe? What direction do you think you would want to go?
I feel like you have to use it to make an ally, and then if they get voted out, then you just get a benefit from having an ally with an idol. Because in my mind, if you're playing the game with somebody, you're not automatically taking them to the final two. Like or final three. There's only three people going to make it to the end. There's only two that's going to make it to the end with you if you make it. So more times than not, your ally is going to get voted out. The question is, do you let them get blindsided with their idol, or do you, or do you like stop them and say, hey, I think you should play your idol? I think that if you go into this thinking, this is somebody who I want to work with, but I'm okay with them not sitting next to me in the final three, whether it's somebody who might have a bigger target than you, maybe somebody playing a better game than you, whatever the case may be. If you're okay with them kind of falling so that you can proceed in the game, I think it's fine. I feel like if you were actively doing this just so you could get somebody voted out so you can get an idol back, this is too much. I don't think you should be giving somebody an idol with the hopes that they get voted out so that you can get it back, unless you really want to work with that person and you'd be fine with them having an idol. The idea that you would just target somebody based on, well, maybe I can get it back, that's almost a bridge too far. There's so many variables that you would have to take into consideration before that even happens. Who's to say they even have the idol by the time you get to them? They could play it tomorrow, and then what? You don't get it because they played it. If they misplay it, you don't get it. They only get it if they're blindsided with the idol in their pocket, and that's such a specific, like circumstance. I don't think you can count on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's too many steps to,
Mm-hmm.
to get there to think ahead. It's like just keep it simple and just give it to somebody who you would think like if you are going to make the merge that you think I think you have to think like who's in a good position on their tribe also that they have other allies that if I now build a bridge with you that you are going to come with other people as well and then I'm in good with a whole bunch of people. So I think that Aubrey, although she only comes with herself in that situation because she's very alone on her tribe, I do think that because of that, it's also in a different way a good move because I feel like Aubrey and Christian just are two peas in a pod. Like I think that they just organically will click, they'll get along. I don't know if they have any prior history of being friends with each other. Like to my knowledge, no, but I just feel like they would get along very well. And because she doesn't really have allies on her tribe, she's going to be looking for people if she makes it to the merge or swap. So I think that this was a very good move, and she obviously seemed very grateful for it. And I think that if time comes where he can tell her, "Hey, that was me," I think that that's going to work wonders for both of them.
Mm-hmm. But if not Aubrey, who? Who's your second second ranked person that you think that he should have sent this to?
I mean, this is funny to say, but I kind of think like Genevieve maybe would have been. I see the two of them like clicking, and he doesn't know this, but like she's in a very good position on her tribe seemingly. So I do think that that could have been interesting. I think. I mean, of course, he could give it to like Angelina or Mike, but he already kind of probably has them as allies, so he probably doesn't really need to do that. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Well,
What about you,
do
Molly?
either of y'all have?
Oh, I was gonna say Mike, but I guess he didn't really need to do that. But I don't know. I maybe Camilla because he could build like trust with someone who maybe wouldn't have expected or she wouldn't have expected that also. So my vote would be on Camilla.
Yeah, I don't know where I would go, but I think Camilla's probably a decent choice for sure. Because I don't know. I don't know. I think Genevieve's the mystique about her is so big. Like, I've been watching kind of how people talk about Genevieve in the preseason, or even just the fan talking about Genevieve, and you would swear she ran her season, with an iron fist the entire time, and was just like one challenge away from winning the entire thing. And it was actually a very rocky road, right? But she has this air about her.
For the first 5 episodes.
Yeah, and then she takes control. Then she, I think, mistakenly votes out Saul, and then from there she's on the back foot. She's on the ropes the entire second half of the game. And so, but I think her mystique is more that she's cutthroat, she's very strategic, and I feel like that would be somebody I would be afraid to give, whether that's true or not. I think I would be afraid to give an idol to somebody like that.
Yeah. I personally would probably just always give my idols to Suri.
Yeah, but they're on the same tribe. They can't do it. It's a cop out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, true.
You guys
I would still. I would be like, it's Suri or nobody. So, deal with it.
That would be great.
Yeah. Well, then we get the start of what becomes kind of the main portion of this episode. So, Ozzy proposes an alliance to Savannah and Devins, between the three of them and Joe. What he doesn't know, of course, is that Devins already has his core alliance with Emily and Christian, and that Devins really doesn't have any interest in playing with Joe. Molly, what do you think about this proposal from Ozzy and the Devins and Joe? We'll get into more of that later, but what were your initial reactions to this proposal?
Yeah, it just didn't seem like it would stick from first off. I mean, I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me to see those three, and then additionally with Joe in an alliance together. They're just all very different in my opinion, and I just didn't see it actually playing out. Especially also, Ozzy's not even including his number one, which is Suri, in this. So I was like, how long could this actually work? It didn't really make sense.
Yeah. And Chappell, right after this, of course, then we get Savannah whispering to Devins before Devins was going to go on a walk alone with Joe, and saying, "Are you going to tell him about the alliance?" He decides not to. What did you think of that choice from Devins to withhold that information?
It was definitely a mistake. We will see the ramifications of that very quickly. I still don't understand why he didn't just tell Joe. That part is unclear to me, because that alliance with Ozzy, even if he didn't plan on honoring it, what's the harm of just being like, yeah, Joe, Ozzy pitched an alliance of the four of us? I don't think it could go anywhere. What do you think Joe is going to do with that information? I feel like Devins maybe felt like he was being almost reprimanded, or I think he tells Joe, if you felt like you caught me in a lie or something like that, and so he just kind of froze up, because your natural instinct is, it's Survivor, you don't know what to tell certain people, what you can share, and so he's trying to figure out, what is the story I'm telling Joe? Is it Ozzy is now aligned with us and we are now targeting Suri? Because Devins doesn't want to target Suri, so is it Ozzy is aligned with us? Ozzy obviously is not going to let us target Suri, so are we targeting Flippin', or is that going to get back to Christian? There's not a lot of people on the tribe, and so they have to be very careful with what they say. And Joe is somebody who just watched he talks about this over and over again, but he did just watch a whole season of a game that he didn't even know was being played behind his back. So now he's a little bit more weary of when people are lying to him. One of the main themes that happened in his season was that, that moment when David is very much trying to out Kyle as somebody who is playing both sides and, kind of making moves behind the scenes, and Joe doesn't believe him, and so now he's kind of like, I can see that I'm being lied to, and he's not wrong. And so he's kind of getting offensive about that, or defensive about that. Now, whether he should get so defensive, I don't know, because it sounds like through the exit press that I've been hearing that he got really intense about it. Savannah was talking about how uncomfortable she was. Devins clearly didn't love it. So it's a very intriguing scene, right? It's got me thinking about the things they don't show us, and I still I would love to get in Devin's brain and figure out what it was about Joe in that moment that made him not just be like, hey, Ozzy pitched a 4-person alliance, but we don't have to do that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the fact that they just watched 48 is such a big factor in this whole episode, because Devins, I think, is just somebody who plays such an opposite game and views Survivor in such an opposite way of Joe. And I think he has just no intentions of ever working with him because he feels like Joe is unworkable with the way that he wants to play Survivor. And so I think when he has to be the one, like, I don't think he wants Joe in this alliance at all. And so then he gets to, like, has to be the one to bring him in. I think he's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want him in there. Maybe they'll just forget and, like, won't ever tell him about it. And then we can just work with the three of us and he doesn't have to be a part of it. And so he's just, like, kind of freezing, like, I don't want to do this. And so I'm just going to avoid the situation altogether. But Joe, of course, caught the fact that Savannah was whispering to him, put him on the spot. I don't think Devins is a very good liar. And so he just didn't know what to say, what to do. And it just all crumbled from there.
I also don't think Joe has had a lot of people whispering in front of him. In his season, he ran that tribe like the military, you know, they were all coming back to Joe. Joe and Eva were the epicenter. And so all conversations that were happening, you know, even the Kyle and Camilla alliance, the big thing about it was that it was secret. They didn't talk in front of people. Now he has somebody whispering right in front of him. He's thinking, well, that's obviously a red flag. And I'd have to agree with him. I think that he does probably overreact a bit to it. Because, you know, in past seasons of Survivor, people just, hey, let's come with me to the well. Come with me over here. You know they're talking. And I think Australian Survivors even worse. Like, they will have a full conversation just across the camp from you while you're standing right there. They don't care. But Joe's never played Survivor like that. He doesn't know how to play this game that everybody else is playing. And I will say this. I'm in the minority about the Ozzy, alliance that he was pitching. Because I actually really like this move from Ozzy. I think that people have clocked that him and Cirie are together. And by going and pitching this 4-person alliance and not bringing up Cirie and being like, oh, Joe's the only name that I won't say, that I won't vote out, that I won't say. That's exactly what he should be saying to Savannah. I think Savannah's probably Joe's number one ally at that point. If Ozzy comes over and he says, me and Cirie, we're two, like, I can't vote for Cirie. Everybody's like, yeah, Ozzy, we know we're going to vote you out because of it. I think by going and saying like, oh, no, I'm not as aligned with Cirie as it seems. I'm willing to play with a different group. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, especially for somebody like Ozzy, who's not the most subtle with these things.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, too, Ozzy and Cirie have so much history, and he knows that Cirie is such a savvy player that with some people, with some alliances like that, I think that he could worry that would trigger, like, Cirie to not trust him, that he's not, like, a part of something that she doesn't know about, or that she's not included in, and she could worry that, like, oh, he's going to prioritize them over me. But I think he knows that, like, there's no, like, he knows that Cirie's going to be fine. She's not going to get paranoid. She's not going to freak out about that. Like, the two of them go back so far and have such a seemingly trusting relationship this season that, like, he's like, yeah, I can form a whole thing on the side, but Cirie always knows that I'm going to be loyal to her first and foremost. So I think they could work.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, then we get to the immunity challenge, and Vatu and Callow win immunity, sending Sela to tribal once again. So then we get to some crazy, messy strategy here. So let's just kind of break it down one piece at a time. So Cirie at first wants to send Savannah home because she is fearful that Savannah could have gotten something on her journey, or at least that's the reason that she's giving to people. So she goes around the tribe pitching Savannah's name. And Chappell, I thought this was it's such a masterclass from Cirie that she is getting the heat off of Ozzy, who she knows could be in danger. And it seems like a lot of people have a very good relationship with Cirie that I was kind of surprised by based on how it seemed like she was so close to going home last week.
Yeah, it just goes to show you the difference in Ozzy. And Ozzy is the one who points it out, but it shows you the difference in Ozzy's gameplay and Cirie's gameplay. In the first episode, Ozzy was in the spot where Cirie is in currently, where he felt like, I need to go save her. And everybody within seconds figured, okay, Ozzy must be really close with Cirie because why is he acting like this? We see that scene of Jenna Lewis asking him point blank and him kind of freezing up when it comes to Cirie. When they're out in the water, everybody's like, yeah, did you expect for Ozzy to put his foot down so much about Cirie? When Cirie does it, she's going, okay, all these options are on the table, including Ozzy. Let's talk it through. And then she's just leading you down the path that she wants you to go down a little bit more than the Ozzy path, right? Like, so it's like, yeah, there's a ton of reasons to get Ozzy out, but look at Savannah. Look at these other people. There's definitely other reasons to get them out too. And she'll continue to do that throughout with the Joe chaos. Savannah being a very good player, she kind of peeps it, but it just goes to show you that people like Cirie, there's no secret why they do well in Survivor every time they play. It's because they have the soft touch that's needed to have these conversations without having people looking at you like you're up to something.
I feel like watching Cirie on Big Brother made me like
Absolutely.
understand her so much better, because we saw Izzy, Cirie, Felicia just bring up every name all the time, going through every possible scenario, every option. And I feel like this is what she was doing here. Like, we saw her doing it with Emily in particular, where she was like, let's just go name by name. Let's give the pros and cons. And it's like, yeah, that's how we saw her for every late night on BB25. And I thought it was so fun to watch kind of a condensed, edited version of that that really highlighted just how masterful she is at this game.
Mm-hmm.
And then Molly, Ozzy, when she talks to Ozzy, he actually gives Cirie his extra vote as a sign of wanting to gain trust with Cirie. And this was a very touching moment to see Cirie for the first time in her Survivor history getting some sort of advantage.
We did it.
It feels like karmic karma from Advantage Geddon. Finally, she gets her own advantage.
I know. I was so happy to see this, and also just goes to show how much of the trust that Ozzy does have in Cirie, and he knows he's not great in that the social strategy of it all. And Cirie, obviously, as we are just talking about, is the master of this. So I feel like she is obviously deserving of having an advantage, and so I'm glad that Ozzy did give it to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like Cirie is the right person to have this because she'll know how to use it. I fear that Ozzy, he's not the best strategist. Like, look, he's fine. I don't think he would like completely mess it up. But Cirie will, I think, use this in a very smart way if she has to at all. So I'm glad that she's now the one in possession of this.
I really hate that they're getting swapped, because if they're not on the same tribe, I don't really know how I'm going to feel, because I think they are starting to work really good as a pair. Now that they have this duo, they have these two advantages. People kind of see them as a duo, which is kind of cool, because if they do get swapped together, then maybe they can go and keep that, kind of under wraps and work some magic. If they're with anybody from their original tribe, though, that's probably not going to stay under wraps too much. But I don't know. I don't think I'm ready for the Cirie and Ozzy experiment to end. So hopefully they both make it through whatever swap situation is in and end up together. Because I would love to see kind of what the end of the story is. It would suck for the end of the story to happen while they're separate, I think.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's too early for a swap. Why are we swapping in episode 3? Like, it's just it just feels like we're getting to a good spot here. Like, there's interesting things happening. Like, why are we breaking it all apart now? But it could lead to other interesting things, sure. But I feel like let's let it settle for like another episode or two, just so we can kind of get our footing with each of these tribes and hopefully let another tribe go to tribal.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess maybe they're worried that this could end up being a disaster tribe situation with Sela, and they don't want that to happen. So they're like, let's just
switch it up,
solve this before.
Mm-hmm.
But then Savannah tells Joe. So Savannah talks to Joe, and he asks her about the whispering situation, and she comes clean to him and says that there was an alliance proposed, and she doesn't understand why Devins didn't just tell him about it. It seemed like this conversation went pretty well, and that actually made me feel better about Savannah's chances, because at this point I think she kind of seemed to be the name floating around. But then this conversation seemed to go pretty well. But then right after this, Joe confronts Devins, and he says, "Why didn't you tell me about this? Why is this a bad thing that you're proposing an alliance?" And they get into a pretty big argument that apparently, like you said, Chappell, based on the exit press, was even bigger than we saw. This seems to have really escalated. But Chappell, what did you think about what we did see from this fight and what we've heard was missing maybe from it as well.
I'm of two minds because it did seem like it got pretty intense in a way that made other people feel uncomfortable. So I don't love that. But as a character moment, this is my favorite version of Joe. I hate the Captain America, Joe version that we got for most of 48, where he's just like, he can do no wrong. Everybody's fawning over him. It's a little one note and a little boring to me. This is Joe, the fully fledged person. And it's okay for him to be upset with Rick about lying to him. That's okay. I think from Rick's point of view, you can be upset with me, but at some point you got to let this go. Like, just, I apologized. My bad. If you don't trust me, move on. Go work with somebody else. But don't sit here and berate me about it. And it felt like Joe was starting to kind of get on his high horse about trust and loyalty and how to play the game. And I think that's where I have to step away a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Molly, I feel like this is the best of Survivor to me, where it's like two people with such incredibly different styles of gameplay and are forced to come together on a relatively small tribe and interact, coexist, to work together in some way, shape, or form. And they just can't because they are such incredibly different people who come from such different walks of life and have such different theories about what Survivor is and how it should be played.
I know it did. It did feel very like, okay, like the gameplay of what Joe did of all this trust and loyalty. It's like everyone hating on it not being Survivor. I mean, especially for Devins to not appreciate that gameplay. I mean, it worked for Joe for that season, but then it did make me think of, yeah, I guess Survivor really is not about this loyalty and all that he was trying to preach on. So I feel like it was interesting just to see this feud and this episode in particular, and obviously in Survivor 50 with a bunch of people in all different seasons and it all coming together. It made for a good moment, I thought. Even though, like, obviously the fight isn't great, but like at least we got drama.
Great for me.
Yeah, it's great for TV.
I wonder if this had been filmed a year later, I wonder if there is so much like pent up like feelings about Joe and his gameplay. Like, I feel like, again, like I said earlier, like they literally just watch this whole loyalty and integrity and honesty thing is like the biggest topic of conversation amongst the Survivor community at this point in time. And I just wonder if Rick was really like responding viscerally to that. But it does also seem like, from what Savannah has said, that it was also things that were happening there that Joe was doing or saying that didn't make the cut. So, yeah, who knows? But the consensus around camp really after this fight is that Joe is difficult to work with, and the target kind of starts to shift over to him, over Savannah, because they just feel like they can't work with someone like that. And we get this very interesting scene with Christian and Joe, where Christian is rocking Joe in the hammock and he is like underneath the hammock, kind of. And it's like you see Christian through the netting and it's just like rocking him back and forth. What did he call it? Something therapy, like hammock therapy or something like that. It was like, this is just such a visual, such a scene. And I think Chappell, like, it really stressed to me how good Christian is too at having these conversations, because it feels like he understands who each person is and what they need and how to talk to them in a way that really gets through to them.
He's the leader of the tribe, and that kind of happened in David versus Goliath as well. By the time they got down to the merge tribe, he was the leader of his alliance. It's him, Davey, and Nick, but he's kind of in the middle of that group. I think he's with Davey, he's with Nick as well. And when they're making their moves and they're using their advantages and bringing them all together, that's his bread and butter. So he's somebody that you don't mind letting navigate you through the game. And somehow, with all these big men around, the loyalty and leadership types, Christian has emerged as one of the people who can talk to the most people. I think him and Sari are probably the most dangerous people on the tribe socially, because we see that they have a working relationship with literally everybody on the tribe. And we see that, well, I mean, minus Savannah probably, but we see that in this episode. We see Sari work in the room and getting what she wants done, but we also see Christian kind of work in the room as well. We see Devins is the one who runs into Joe Emily doesn't really stray too much further than that alliance. Joe obviously is having some communication issues, but between Sari and Christian, yeah, there's some very good Survivor gameplay going on just when it comes to the social game. And I think that, they always talk about how hard it is to show that on TV, but it's not that hard because we just saw it. We saw two people do it very masterfully, and this is why Christian is such a big threat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Molly, to me, it stresses the importance of like working outside your alliance because Joe, I mean, spoiler alert, but Joe's not going anywhere this episode. He's still going to be back at camp, and look, they're swapping. But like, let's just say in a world where they're not swapping and they have to be with him, Christian probably is going to be one of the people now who Joe would be most likely willing to still work with because has a relationship with him, and Christian isn't. We see this on Big Brother all the time where people are on the block and they're just like they have the plague. Nobody wants to talk to them, and then the one or two people who are willing to kind of cross that picket line and talk to them are the ones who, when that person gets in power, that they're the safest because they had the foresight to not treat someone like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it just goes to show how smart Christian is in his gameplay, and I especially also I don't know if you've been pushed on a swing or on a hammock before, but that's a very calming experience. So also just the fact that he did that for Joe, I mean, that's gonna get him brownie points for that too. Not just the talking with him, but just the act of just relaxing in that moment. Kind of, I mean, how relaxing can they be on the Game of Survivor? But like in general, like laying in a hammock is a nice moment for them, and I think that also just I was watching that I was like I want to be on the hammock right now, Christian pushing me. But yeah, that was I thought really really smart from Christian.
Whenever I see a hammock on Survivor, I'm like, this isn't. I could do this. Now I could do this. Like, if I have a hammock, I'm good. If I have to sleep on the ground and lay on the ground all day, like, then I'm not good. But if I have a hammock, put me out there, coach.
Yeah, we rarely see people sleeping at night in the hammock. I don't know if it's just bad for your back or like uncomfortable, but most of the time we see people sleeping in the sand or on bamboo. I feel like once you get the hammock, that's almost like a little makeshift bed. I don't know. Maybe it's not the most comfortable.
Or I wonder if nobody wants to be that one person,
the one guy on the hammock.
Yeah. It's like being in the, like, we saw this on, I mean, House of Villains, which of course you were covering on RGP, like where it's like, oh, I don't want to be the one person in the supervillain suite. Like, I'm going to just not have it because I don't want to be away from everybody else. And I don't want to like be kind of above anyone else. And so maybe that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Well then, Savannah, she clocks the fact that Sari is using all this chaos as a way to shift the target off of Ozzy. And she talks to Emily and a couple others about potentially putting the vote on Ozzy because she doesn't want to get bamboozled by Sari. Molly, what did you think of the fact that Savannah was the one to seemingly really clock? I mean, she's right. Sari was doing that.
No, I was impressed by this, honestly. I was like, wow, like Savannah's very savvy with this and understanding the...
No pun intended.
I know, savvy Savannah. But I thought, I mean, in this moment, I really didn't think that she would get a ton of traction, but I mean, it was smart of her to at least bring it up.
Yeah. I have to say, maybe I was fooled by the edit this episode. I really thought after this moment, Chappell, that the vote was really between Ozzy and Joe here.
Yeah, I guess it's not an editing trick we see often in Survivor, but we've seen it a couple times recently in different shows where it shows one person to be kind of savvy about something. And you think, well, obviously they're onto it, so this is going to work out in their favor. I mean, if you think about Rob and the Traitors, he's like, "Oh, the conga line, we got to get away from the conga line." We're like, "Oh, thank God he made it. He figured it out." But figuring it out is not enough, And so for Savannah to figure it out, yes, but she also had to move the hearts and minds of the other people on the tribe, and they just weren't going for it. I suspected in the preseason that her and Jenna Lewis would be on the outs, but once people started talking about who they were going to be, like their friend or foe game they did with Mike Bloom, once I started hearing that, I was like, oh, okay, either they're going to somehow get in control and Sari's gone, or they're going to be the first two out. And so looking back, it makes total sense that Jenna Lewis and her number one ally, Savannah, who Savannah really wanted to work with, are the ones that they're gone. So it really doesn't matter what Sari was doing right now because she was never going to get that kind of traction going for Sarid. So yeah, but in the moment, I do say that I was very impressed with Savannah as a winner. I don't think her winning game was a very flashy game. I think there was a lot going on her season that doesn't make it, probably doesn't speak to her skill set as much. But she's a really good Survivor player, and I think that it was very clear in these couple episodes.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's yes, it's an early out, but it's not like I don't feel disappointed by
Mm-hmm.
what I saw from her in these two episodes. Like I feel like we got enough of her that I could see where it's like, okay, I think she earned her win and her spot on this season, and she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like out of place or like not deserving of being amongst these legends. Like she was able to clock this. She was able to form relationships, and I think that that I was very happy with what we got from her in the short time this season.
Yeah, for sure.
Then we do get a very fun moment here that I am sure will pay dividends much later in the season. So Christian and Devins talk, and they hatch a plan to hide a fake idol at tribal council so that later on, if either one of them needs it, they can pretend to go find it. And they have the note from the Billie Eilish boomerang idol, or not the note, but they have like the wrapping from it, so they have something that they can show. And this seems like it is a very unique, interesting idea, Chappell, that we have not exactly ever seen before on Survivor.
Yeah, Michael, how long do you think Devins has been sitting on this idea? Do you think this is did he
Uh,
come up with this spur of the moment, or has
six
he been waiting to do
years.
this? Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 years, I'd say.
He pulled it
Give
out
or
of the
take.
air. It was just like, oh yeah, can I have that? I have an idea. I find it hard to believe that Rick Devins just came up with that on the spot. We're Survivor fans. We talked through all the possibilities and things that you could do, the cool ways you can use different things. I think that he's been dying to do this, and Christian gave him the perfect opportunity to do it.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
wonder if the Adam Klein moment made him think of this, or if he had been thinking about this even before. But at the very latest, I think that when he saw the Adam Klein, he was like, "That's an interesting idea. Let
Mm-hmm.
me sit on that for a second if I ever do get a chance to come back here." But Molly, do you think that this is going to work out for them?
I hope so. I really do. I feel like it's like bound to do something. Maybe not like the maybe as grand as we might think at this moment, but I think it could do at least some damage.
Yeah, I have faith. I think that this is something that I think that I, let me think about this for a second, because I'm like, I think that this could work, but then I also do slightly worry with what we've seen from Devins and his acting lying ability, that if he is the one to do this, I could see him kind of like almost overdoing it and overacting to the point where I'm like, this feels almost weird. This feels like pre-planned. This feels like not something you just found in this moment. Like, I could see it, but also they're not looking for it necessarily. So it's like, are they like paying attention to like every word that he's saying? So I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens, regardless of how it works out. This is interesting to me. That a continuing story that we will hopefully get for a while.
I think
Yes.
I think it's very showy, and I think that's Rick Devins' strength. It wasn't only that he was finding idols; it was the way he was playing them at Tribal Council. He was making such a big deal out of those moments, drawing so much attention to himself. It's the reason why, by the end of his season, although he had been voted out, people still would have voted for him to win. In a lot of ways, I'm old school. They used to say, "Oh, if you got voted out of the game, we're not going to vote for you. There's nobody you could sit next to and win." Rick Devins was far and away the front runner. They were ready to give him that championship, and it's because he was making such a big deal and a spectacle at Tribal Council and drawing so much attention to himself. So if anybody's going to make the most out of it, it's him. I think plenty of people could use this, but I think if anybody is going to make this moment believable, I mean, how do you not believe that Rick Devins found an idol? That's kind of his whole brand. And so to do
That's
it in
true.
front of everybody at Tribal Council, it'd be really hard to disprove that that's what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. True. No, I'm excited for this, and I do wonder though, will it be Christian or Devins that ends up using it?
Ooh, would you?
Let's take that.
Is there a world where Christian outs the plan? You know, where maybe he's ready to get rid of Devins. The
Oh.
reason I bring this up because this season on Survivor AU, one of the players tries to take the tribe hostage using the flint, but his partner in crime is the one who says, "Nah, I'm not going to do that to you." I could imagine a world where maybe
Oh.
Christian thinks it's time to cut Devins, but Devins thinks he's in on the plan.
Too soon,
It
Chappelle.
just happened. It's
It
fresh.
just
It's
happened.
fresh. It's so fresh. But how can you not think of it? You know, right now it's
I
you
know,
you kind of
yeah.
imagine a world where they're in tandem, but they don't have to be.
That's
Yeah,
the point.
true. That would be very, oh my God, that would, what a moment that would be,
Yeah.
right? Wow. Oof. Well, I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, me too.
But we do first, before that, Savannah is voted out here. And as everyone is leading, is heading out to leave tribal council, Christian falls and distracts everyone and gives Devons a chance to hide the fake idol behind some of the rocks, kind of by the fire, it looked like. Um, do you think, Molly, that this fall was genuine or a ploy to just give Devons the opportunity to do this?
Oh yeah, this was definitely a fake fall,
Yeah.
which I loved. I was like, they didn't even have the camera right on him in that moment. They had to like turn around and get him there, which I thought it was funny. And then even Christian afterwards, after he got up, was like kind of wobbling, like to try to keep it as like a I lost my balance. Which I mean, I think people actually really believed. So that was good on his part. Really good acting from Christian. But I was happy and that moment was just exciting because I was worried. I was like, oh no, like someone's gonna find it, like or see that Devins is doing this. But I really think they got away with it. So I
Hmm.
was happy to see this all act out or come out into to fruition and actually hopefully no one else saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chappelle, I was curious, like you said, Molly, like how what they were going to do to distract people. Because like
Yeah.
the only other time that I think we've seen something kind of like this where someone had to do something at tribal as people were leaving was Parvati on Survivor AU. And she was able to do that, but it wasn't easy necessarily. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I was not sure how they were going to get away with that.
Yeah, and then even then, Cass stayed back. You know, she stayed back and watched
Mhm.
Parvati do it. You know, so it's not, you kind of need a diversion in those moments to give yourself that leeway, so you can have a little space to work. And I think Christian's the perfect person to do it. I think it's totally believable that Christian would have just fallen down. And you
For
know,
which something I believed
yeah, like
it.
I definitely think that I still am not 100% sure that this wasn't just Christian falling down in a convenient time. Um, but yeah, I mean, imagine being on his tribe, right? Like y'all watched that man fall down, and now here it is. You're watching it on TV, and you're like, "Hey, wait a minute! That was all part of this plan." You know, I would be shocked that he did it, but it's very innovative. We've never seen this on Survivor before.
Yeah.
It's crazy. 50 seasons in, we're still getting firsts.
That's why we
How
still have
how
more
wild
shows.
is that?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
the strength of this format. Well, let's get into some predictions for next week. So we are getting a tribe swap. Are there any? I guess we. Okay, I don't remember everybody who's on each tribe, although I did see the list once. But any hopes for who ends up on the same tribe together?
Ooh, Molly, what you think?
Well, I want Christian and Devin to still be together just
Mm,
because I hope that I think them working together has been fun so far and I want them to continue that. So I wanted to see them together. I also, I want to see, oh, I feel like it'd be interesting to see Aubrey with like Camilla. Like I kind of want to see them
Hmm.
together on the same tribe. So or maybe Aubrey and Charlie. I could see them working together. So we have to see what happens there.
yeah, I'm leaning toward like I want Sari and Ozzy together, but with Jonathan because I don't want Sari to go back to Tribal Council,
Hmm.
and so I feel like if you put the three of them out there, they're fine. Like everything will be fine. Um, and then of course like the Goliaths are all together. It's you know on the same season, but I'm sorry, the Goliaths and the David Christian, the
Yeah.
Goliath of the Davids. They're all together. It'll be cool to see what it looks like if they're on the same tribe. Do they naturally just link back up, or do they, is there some bad blood? I mean, we've seen outside of the game a little bit. Angelina and Christian have been sniping each other online, kind of talking a little shit. So I don't know if if they just go in and just start working together. Does that put a huge target on their backs? And then, of course, I mean, Ozzy and Coach would be fun. You kind of want the payoff of the beef between the two of them. So there are a few iterations that I'd be excited to see.
Yeah, I think Ozzy and Coach is the big one for me. I want to see them together. I want to see this story continue between the two of them. And I would also, I would really like to see people, who played, because in general, they tried to split up people who were on the same seasons together in the original tribe. So I would like to see those stories continue. I want to see some people who have some prior history come back together, because I think that's always interesting to say. Like, now we're a few days in, everyone has established relationships with people from their original tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to take precedence over people who you've played with in the past? Or what are you going to prioritize? I think that's an interesting dynamic that I hope we get to see on a little bit on each of these tribes in the next couple episodes here.
You know what might be fun? Maybe Joe and Camilla, to see what it looks like with Joe really not trusting Camilla, but also with Camilla finally being surrounded by people who might be willing to vote out Joe. I think that could be fun too.
Yeah, that would be very fun. Yeah, that's a perfect example. I think that would be great. And unfortunately, I think it would have been great to see Kyle and Camilla on a tribe together again, but we won't unfortunately get to see that. But a lot to look forward to here. Very fun first two episodes. I think we're 2 for 2, and I have very high hopes for the rest of the season here. But Chappell, before we close out, we are doing something this year in 2026 with all of our guests, where we are. So last year at the end of the year, we had held our first annual Chatty Awards, where we gave awards to our favorite reality stars and shows and all of that good stuff. But this year we are adding a guest choice nomination. So every guest gets to nominate a reality star who they think has been this year the highlight for you so far. Is there anyone that you would like to nominate? And then we will, at the end of the year, go through all the nominations. If someone has the most votes, they will automatically win. If not, we will decide between the ones who are tied. So anyone that you would like to nominate, it can be from any show that you've watched this year.
Oh wow, that's tough, because I mean, is it boring for me to just immediately pick Sari? Maybe it's a little, a little stale. I've been watching so much TV lately that I'm like, a part of me has been enjoying, House of Villains so much that I'm looking at New York or Tyson or even the return of Paul. But I think for me, I always have to default to Sari. I want to nominate Sari if she hasn't already been, and of course, I want to make sure that my vote was the one that counts when it comes to Sari, because I would hate to be on the wrong side of history and be like, "Well, Sari won, but you didn't even vote for her." So there you go.
You are our first Sari vote so far, so
Hey.
I'm glad she's on the list. She deserves to be there. Mother should always be on the list.
That
so
part.
I'm happy. Good choice. Well, Chappell, thank you so much for joining us. This was very, very fun. Loved having you on the pod. And where can our listeners find you? Anything that you want to plug?
Yes, first of all, thank y'all both for having me. I was wondering when I was gonna get my phone call. Y'all had Matt Scott on a little too much for my liking. So I was like, oh, okay, we'll see what happens. And then I will take this time to give a personal shout out to Matt Scott. He's awful. But you can follow me on all social media platforms at Recap Kickback, or just follow my YouTube page, youtube.com/@RecapKickback. It's where I do all my podcasting. I've been talking about the Flavor of Love cinematic universe. We're talking about I Love New York right now with Chantel, who's never seen it. Also somebody who's been on the show before I was. And so just saying, she's also not as good as me, but she's okay. And so you can check us both out talking about that. Me and Mario are talking about stuff as well. Gia and I have been talking about Survivor Marquesas recently. We're talking about Abbott Elementary. So much going on over on my podcast, but you have to subscribe at recapkickback.com/subscribe.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening or watching on YouTube. And we will be back every week for Survivor 50. So excited for that. I think we have some Love is Blind coverage probably that we will try to get into now that season's closing out. lots of good shows. Everything's on right now. So we will cover as much of it as we possibly can. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that. And we will chat with y'all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.